All right, welcome to today's video. This is all about how to set up and add a contact to IRES MLS, as well as set them up on a property search. The property search is called the MySite in IRES, so you'll hear those two words interchangeable. A buyer search portal, and MySite is the name of what IRES calls it. So IRES is the Northern Denver MLS. They're located in Loveland, Colorado. Make sure you know what areas you're looking in, and if you have a buyer, let's say down in Castle Rock, this system may not work or be the best for you. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to set up a buyer search, just like we did in RE Colorado, in Longmont, Colorado, um, for a possibly a 3-bed, 2-bath house, looking for 450 and under, and around, let's call it 2,000 square feet. So this is the home page here. Going to go ahead and log in. You're going to notice some tabs up here. We want to go to Contacts Dashboard. Click on the Add button up here, Add Contact. And then just like RE Colorado, you are able to type in just the first and last name. Go over here and type in the email address. A little tip: if you have a different, if you have a spouse or somebody different on the search that has a different last name, you can use your first and last name in the first name column here. And then my wife's maiden name was Chambers. And then it'll populate that same way that way. So we'll keep that. If you have 2 emails, put another email in here and the work email. If you have more than 2 emails, I'll show you where to put that in a different area. That's about all I use IRES for. I don't put any of this other information in unless you're using this maybe for contracts. So IRES, you can use, there is a contracts tab in here, so you can actually create commission approved contracts in here. So then I would educate you guys to fill this out, and then you can click save and add a signer. So that's if you're using this for contracts. For the purposes of our video, we're just doing a buyer search, so you're going to hit save over here. And then it should populate Bruce, Carly, and Lindsay Chambers. There's the email address we put in. And then one of the biggest notes, one of the key factors here is making sure that your MySite is enabled. So want to always glance here. We get busy, we fumble around. I purposely did this for this video. When you go back into edit, this is the number one thing that you're going to want to make sure you do whenever you set up a buyer search is click on enable MySite and then create a password. I'm a big fan of creating a password. Oops, actually it was up there. I'm a big fan of creating a password that is very easy to remember and can be very similar to all of my searches. So I like home search, all lowercase letters, all one word. It's something that's very easy to remember because guaranteed fact that when you start working with buyers and you have multiple different people on searches, somebody will reach out and forget this password. So I keep it the same. That way I can answer their text message real quickly, their email, whatever that may be, and go that route. Hit save. Now our MySite should be enabled and we should be able to log in. Before I show you the login tab of that, we need to create the search. There's no listings in the portal yet, so it's not really going to look exactly like what you're going to send them until we get some listings in there. So we're going to go over to MySite and Prospects, drop down to New Prospect Search. And then I like to do any status change. What any status change does is it repopulates listings that were once under contract that go back to active. Maybe something fell apart with the first buyer. Your buyers want to see those properties come back on the market as well, just in case they didn't have time to get in and see them the first time around. I am an instantaneous guy. I like properties to be sent to my buyers as soon as they hit the market. If you need to review the property before you send it to your buyers for any sort of those one-offs, what you're going to want to do is click on instantaneous, come down here and click off of their email. Make sure your email is in there, and then the listings will only be sent to you. And then you scan through them, and if you want to send them to the buyer, what you would do is, as long as their email's in here, and this is not checkboxed, you can go in and find a listing or find the listing that you want to send to them. So we'll just use this as an example. Click into it, go over to MySite, type in your client's name, and you should see their email populate here. So Bruce and Lindsay Chambers, we have another search set up for ourselves, but this is the one that we're working with right now, is the Bruce Carley Lindsay Chambers file. You're going to click that, and now it will send that to them. Let me go back a second because this will be a good example. If you have multiple emails in the file, you need to go in and select one of them. And then down here, it doesn't automatically send it to everybody in the portal. So you need to manually select that. You can choose whether you want it sent to yourself, hit send, and then that will send that particular property that you scanned for them to them. And that's the way that you can basically screen listings before it gets sent to your party. For the purposes of our video, I'm going to do this the way I traditionally do it. I want any and all listings sent to my clients because I don't want them to miss out on what the market's doing. We always interpret the market. We don't dictate it. And I feel like if you scan through too many emails or too many listings, one, you may not get the listings to them in time. And two, you may weed out something that they might be talking about. Buyers do not talk to us on a regular basis. They don't share with us their thoughts unless we ask them questions. So I'm a big fan of sending that to them instantaneously. If you want property sent to you, go for it. I myself, if I dial in the property search, I don't necessarily want to see every single property that comes through unless they bring it to my attention. As far as how they view it, I like the consumer summary portion, the consumer summary version, and play around with this. Send yourself some listings through each different metric here. I like the consumer summary because it causes them to have to log into this portal. I used to use one-page photos a lot, and what I realized is it almost gave them too much information. They didn't seem to scan through the listing with much intent or whatever you want to call it. They seem to like some of the photos because there was all these thumbnail photos. They love it. We go out and see it, and there'd be a blatant piece of criteria that we could have saw online that they overlooked because they got all excited. So I like to make them log into the system to see all criteria pieces, all photos up close and personal. And what I found is that it really helps eliminate some potential properties that people may or may not want to see, keeps your list down to go out and see the very best properties. But again, play with it. You might have a difference of opinion, and that's perfectly fine. You can change up the citations here. You can say, here's your listings for Bruce and Lindsay. You can edit all of those files there, but it'll pre-populate this in comparison to what you or how you've entered their names. That's about it here. You can change your expiration date if you want. So let's say somebody's going to be searching for the next 6 months while they're in a potential rental situation. You can extend it to, I apologize. That was your notify date. I apologize. I need to go to expired and then put an expiration date into the future, not into the past. So you can mess with that there and go that route. So we need to get into criteria. In IRES, just much like RE Colorado, I go from the top to the bottom on the left and right hand side. So I'm looking for a residential detached home. I do not want to search secondary listing types. This again is more of my preference. By searching second listing types, what this will search for is possible land listings that maybe has a house spec on it. So if you know that your buyer's okay with looking at ground up dirt construction, maybe leave the secondary listing type on there. But I know that we're going to be looking for resale. We've already had that conversation. I don't want dirt lots to come up in my search. You can click off search for secondary listing types. Status, we want to search for all active and possibly all coming soon. If you notice, you can't click on 2 at a time. What you're going to need to do is, if you're on an Apple, I think it's select Command and then click on the next one. Or if you're on Windows, I think it's the Windows button or possibly Shift. Play around with it, but that's how you will be able to select multiple different tabs in IRES. If you're doing a comp search, you're going to want to select the sold and the pending. But we're going to look for coming soons and actives. We have a price range of 450 and under. So a little different than RE Colorado. There's no plus signs. There's no minus signs. You just type in 450 and then you hit tab and then it will populate the other 3 zeros. And you're telling the system that you want to look for 450 and under. So there's no threshold on the price amount here. Let's say you're looking at $1 million properties. You might want to look at 800,000 to $1 million. Oops. Let's go ahead and type in $1 million, and that's how you can get a price range. So we'll populate this back down to 450, leave our low end blank. If you do or do not want an HOA here, this is where you can eliminate all properties with HOAs by selecting that box. There's where you can put in your max annual HOA amount. Bedrooms and bathrooms, again, very similar to price. If I want 3 bedroom and more or 2 bath and more, I would do 3 and 2, leaving these other sections blank. Square footage, again, it depends on your client. Most people don't really have a true sense of what square feet is and how usable some square feet can differ. So what I mean by that is I've walked into properties with 1,500 square feet that are completely functional and completely doable for a prospective client. And with that same client, I can walk into a 1,500 square foot home, and it has 18 different rooms. It's all choppy, but it still has the same amount of square space. May or may not work for them. So my rule of thumb is only hone in on square footage when you absolutely define that with your buyer or are looking for something in particular. As far as lot size or acres, same thing. Make sure you understand and have a conversation with your clients around what a quote unquote big yard is. Somebody coming from, let's call it the Bay Area of California, your lot sizes are going to be pretty small. So a 1/4 acre could be a large lot here. If you're coming from the Midwest and all you know is acreage properties, a large lot size could be defined as a completely different entity. So make sure you talk with your clients. Make sure you just don't take their face value of we need a large lot or space for the dogs. Make sure you get an understanding if you're going to put in some of those criterias. Garage spaces, a little bit simpler. If you're looking for anything with a 2-car garage and above, you're going to go 2 and leave the open, leave the top open. Similar thing with a 3-car or more, and continue on. You can search by type and style. Make sure you play around with this. Keyword searches. This is another awesome feature that I love that IRES has. You can basically search the whole listing. You can search broker remarks, legal description, construction notes, whatever you want, and you can search key phrases. So if you have an investor, you may want to search for listing remarks and broker remarks, and you want to search for maybe cash, maybe the words investor special, you name it, separate it with a comma there, and that should search those different words. I like all words instead of any words or exact phrases, just so that way it will populate more listings for you. Any words is another good one, but exact phrases, you hear handyman special, fixer upper, fix and flip. Sometimes they'll put the hyphen in, sometimes they won't. So I avoid exact phrases just because it will eliminate some of those for you. So that's it for the left side here, going up to the top. I want to go in and I want to do a map search. So define map search. If you haven't watched my RE Colorado video yet, you will note that I am not much of a city guy. So if I've got a client looking in Longmont, Colorado, what I know is that Longmont is here. However, on the other side of Firestone, or on the east side of Firestone, there's addresses over here that will have Longmont addresses. So make sure you have that conversation. Make sure you understand where your buyer wants to look. Ask 3 questions deep or 4 questions deep as far as location goes. See what their northernest city is, their northernest point, their eastern point, southern point, and western point to really hone in. So my clients, they just want to look at Longmont only. Down here, you're going to see some different tools. You can draw a radius search, so that draws a circle. I don't like to circle too much. I use it in very rare instances. You can go over here. Oops, cancel. You can go over here and delete the shape. You can draw a square or you can draw a polygon. So I'm a big polygon fan. I want to make sure I get some of these different subdivisions I know about in here. And then double click, and there's your polygon. You can spruce it up. You can click on it. You can zoom in. No. You can zoom in, click on it, and now you can edit the shape. Just makes it pretty versatile. You can also do overlays. So overlays over here, if you have somebody that wants to be in a specific county, you can pull up the county overlays. Here's your Weld and Boulder County lines, dividing lines. If you zoom out a bit, you'll see all the different counties there. Play around with your overlays, play around with your aerial view, your street views. You'll notice that some of the times, some of the overlays or street views won't be able to populate until you zoom in pretty much all the way. And now we should have some more options there. So if you're not populating all your overlays, it's just because of your zoom. Search looks good. Going right back to basic criteria, we have our map search defined. Moving right along, you can search for specific addresses, property, street names, what have you. Keep going down. You can search for distressed properties. You can do lender-owner properties. You can search for different school zones and different elementaries, middle schools, and high schools. Year built, new construction. Again, such an intricate tool these MLSs are. My rule of thumb is less is more, so that's why we're skipping right along some of these areas. And then features. One of the things about the features tabs again is let's pretend that you have a buyer who absolutely needs a let's call it a main floor master. If the listing agent has a property that has a main floor master but doesn't specifically designate the main floor master feature in this, and you set up the buyer search to only populate those types of properties, that property will not populate into their search. So I'm going to say it over and over through these videos, less is more. The more you put into this, the less features you're going to hit. But there are those one-off times where you absolutely do need to dive in, and sometimes this entire page is filled out. One of the common things here is if you're looking in a very wide area, you want to eliminate some of those manufactured modular and mobile homes. Maybe the lender can't lend on those types of properties. You can go into type, go down here, and triple click on manufactured modular mobile. And now you must not have those types. So play around with it. If you notice, there's 3 different things that come up. Must have a manufactured home, could have, or must not have. Play around with those features, but again, less is more. We'll leave those in there so you guys can see that. We already have our map search done. Before we hit search, I get in the habit of hitting count. So something's up. We do not have any listings coming up. We're searching in Longmont. We did something wrong. I can't figure it out at this point, but let's go back through and figure out exactly what we did wrong. So that's why I love the count button before you go into search, and just tells you have 0 results anyways. So if we go into prospects, any status, instantaneous, have our MySite set up, sending it to us, go over to basic criteria. I want to look at 450 and under. I want to look at everything active, coming soon, and detached. I want to also look for anywhere between 3 beds and 2 baths, 450,000 and lower. We have a 3-car garage spaces that may have done it. Let's take a look here. I'd be surprised, but who knows? That was the one. So it looks like in all of Longmont, there's no such thing as a 3-car garage for under 450,000. So play with this. This is eye-opening. This is different things that you can play with and talk to your clients about and really have a conversation piece. So now we have 13 listings found. So we didn't really do anything wrong, but we do need to, basically go over that with us. If we had a client that absolutely needs 3 garage spaces and they only have a budget of 450,000, you're going to have to tell them they're going to have to be a little bit more patient than the average bear. Or they may say, you know what, why don't we forget it? Send over those 13 properties with 2-car garages. Maybe one of them will have a shed that will take up that extra space that we need. So we hit count. There's our 13 properties. Go over here to search, and now it'll populate those 13 properties. You can scan through here. You can walk through real quick and just double check that these are the ones that you want to go through. Get to the one, and then you can go through and pick pictures and vice versa. So once you have all of the properties that you want to send them, and you can deselect over here, you can deselect over here, you can select all over here. There's some different tabs and different features here. Unlike RE Colorado, the listings that you are wanting to send must be selected. RE Colorado, you don't need to select them, it'll send them all. Here's your little notification. So select what you want, and then you're going to hit, again, don't hit email unless you're only sending a one-time thing to that particular client. You're going to go over here to MySite, over here to find your buyer, and then I'm in a habit of not buying carbon copying myself. You could put in here some comments. Hi, how are you today? Here's all of your listings, blah, 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 blah. And then hit send. Send in 13 listings to MySite. So when you do that, this should send me an email since I'm the technical buyer for our videos purposes. And the first initial setup, the first initial email that you send. You gotta unpack this and put it in the fridge. All right, we've got our email pulled up here, and this is exactly what will show as far as your first initial email to your client. So you can click in here to see exactly what it looks like for them. So like I said, I like mine to kind of look a little bleak and a little vague. I've just learned that over time, I want people to get into their MySite. So it's really important to understand that their first email will show them their username and password. This is often overlooked. This is often forgotten. So you will get that question over time. Go into your MySite, and it's going to cause them to go into a login screen. This is populating my IRES login. So this is actually populating what I log in with. So be careful if you really want to get into a portal, you got to go in and you got to type in exactly what the username and login password were for the search that you set up. And I did home search, all lowercase, all one word, log in. And here are all of the properties that we just sent that particular client. So I want to show you this because this is how I educate my clients on how to navigate through this. I want to only show them the ones that they want. So I tell them to go through their inbox, mark off, oh, here's a back on the market property. So just like that little field that we sent up there, we want to know when things come back on the market so it populates for our buyer. That's a great example there. But what I tell my clients to do is go through here and double check and make sure that these are properties they want to see. So let's say I hate this property. I would probably go ahead and put this thing in the trash. One of the things that you'll note is you're not going to hit the trash button up here. This so to particular listing, what you're going to do is you're going to go down here and you're going to hit this smiley face here. So this smiley face is you're unhappy. This is going to send it to your trash, and then it's going to pull up the next listing. If say they like this property and they want to put it in their favorites, you're going to go down here, populate it in your favorites tab. All of my clients to go through, download out, and really understand what they're looking at. And then when they call me and say that I want to go take a look at some properties, I like to be able to get into their favorites and see exactly what they want to go see. So let's look at it from the back end. So this is the client's portal. We're going to go back into IRES. Before we do that, we absolutely want to make sure that we save their search. If you go and exit out of this tab, everything that we just did with their criteria and the map search, nothing will be saved. and you'll have to redo it. So hit save. You want to save the search as, let's go, Longmont only. You decide what you want to look for. Your clients will see how you tag their search. Hit save, finish, and now there should be a prospect. So Longmont only search is down here. They have one in their favorites, one in their trash. So this is where you would get in to see exactly what they have in their favorites under your view. The reason why our view is most important is when you are setting up their searches, or I should say their showings, you can go over here. After you select all of them, go over to map, and now this will map out exactly where all the properties are located, and then you can start setting up your showings in a linear order. Hope this video helps you guys. I think that's all I can think of so far. If you have any questions, please reach out. My name is Bruce, and I am happy to help. Hope you guys are having a great day. Go out there and crush it. Take care.